This just ruined my day.
I was just thinking about figure skating 3 hours ago, and now I'm like having to think about the ins and outs of the glory hole, and I'm like very upset about this. Welcome back to And Just Like Yap, everybody. I'm Caroline.
I'm Andy.
And we are at episode 6, which honestly, in industry terms, it felt like we were at the finale, and yet there's still a lot that has to happen in 2 episodes.
I know. This really felt like a finale. This was a dense episode.
It was like the infinite jest episode of industry that it kept going.
One of the best episodes of TV in recent memory,
I would agree.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was really incredible. Incredible story, dense with like references, incredible acting. Yeah, definitely, hopefully going to be an Emmy episode.
So we are met with Harper in the elevator. We don't know where she's at. Where is she on an elevator to hell? Who's to say? And those beautiful doors open, and I'm like, we are at a diva-off. Our 2 girlies are seeing each other, and Yaz is really trying to like bring it home to Harper. She's like, we're doing great at Tinder. We're doing amazing, sweetie. We've got $1 billion in valuation. You can't rain on my parade. And Harper's like, okay, great. Well, he wants to leave you holding the bag. Basically trying to get across to Yaz. She's like, I'm not trying to scam you. Like this, like, I just want to see what's true. And this is bad. He's a pathological liar. Harper is just like, can you just, Yaz, I promise this isn't about you. Like, this is the one time it's, like, not about you. Like, just, like, that sort of, like, friendship conversation. But it's, like, it's not personal. And then I love this line back from Yaz where she's like, do you think anyone's ever said that and meant it? Which is, like, a pretty good line. And then Harper's like, well, ask him about Tony Day. And Yaz says, I mean, you don't even know him. So she doesn't know about the big dildo moment. The girlies aren't texting about the strap-on.
I would text you if that happened to me.
If I encounter a strap-on, I'm probably, like, calling you on FaceTime. Like, what's happening here? Sort of, like, ends on, like, we're not closing our Tinder short. And they, like, have this, like, interesting, like, exchange. Where, like, well, until the end. And Yaz is like, well, maybe I should just call security. And Harper's like, go on, I fucking dare you. I was like, God, I wish you'd spit in each other's mouths. This would have been a nice
I know. I think that's maybe coming later in the season. We can only hope.
We have 2 episodes left. Spit in each other's mouths. I really hope.
Yaz thinks she knows Harper well enough to know, like, it's not that Tinder's already bad. You're trying to play with this and ruin my life to make it bad so that your short will work out, because she doesn't know. And Harper knows Yaz so well. She knows, like, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but, like, you've been manipulated. Yaz has been manipulated at every point in her career. So, like, Harper knows, like, this is a sore spot, but it's the spot that I have to poke. Like, you've been duped yet again.
Yeah. Like, she thought she was a step ahead this time, and it's like, babe, unfortunately. And we are taken to Tony Day. Gets a phone call from Whitney, evil Whitney. Hey, it's me. I got your telegram out Sterntow. You needed to hear my voice and listen to it. I'm coming to see you after my quarterly with Jacob. And it's, like, ominous. And we don't know where Whitney is. And we sort of get the clues of that we are in Yaz and Henry's house. Interesting that Whitney is just, like, in the house. Whitney, like, gets, like, right behind him in the shower, and we start getting this voiceover from Whitney throughout the episode, and he says, Dear Henry, there's a hole in my bucket, and this is referencing, I guess it's like a childhood nursery rhyme, and the lyrics are, there's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, there's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, a hole.
Dear Liza, a hole. Have you not heard this song?
I've never heard it. No, I haven't.
I don't know why I know it, but it's one of those things that I know it, like I know Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then Liza responds and is like, then bend it, dear Henry, dear Henry. It's like a cyclical song, similar to like, what is it? This is a song that never ends.
And Whitney's, like, looking at him longingly, and thank God, and he, like, then Henry finally acknowledges him, and he's like, give me a minute, old boy. And there was part of me for a moment, I was like, is this a dream? Is this, like, sort of like a fantasy? Like, do we know if this is in reality or not? But quickly we learn it's not, because sweet Yaz comes in and is like, what the fuck are you doing in here? Which is the normal response anyone would have to, like, a man holding flowers in her bedroom while her husband is naked in the shower. Like, in my bedroom while my husband showers. Like, this is the face you should have.
Yeah, absolutely. 100,000%.
There's a lot of these faces from Yaz this episode. A lot of.
I know. Poor thing. The poor thing.
She can't get a break. And Whitney tries to soften it by saying, like, well, I brought you some flowers, a small housewarming token. Henry's, like, not defending his wife, like, even in the slightest here. He's like, stop jumping down people's throats. We find out the Commerce Secretary is coming in tomorrow, which at this point, I assumed, I was like, oh, like, the UK Commerce Secretary. Mm-hmm. We're going to find out more in a second. Yes. And Whitney tries to, like, extend an olive branch, my sincere apologies, and if I were Yaz, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my house, like, what's happening here? We find out Whitney is renting the house for them, which that was an interesting detail, I thought.
You don't want to put Whitney in control of intimate parts of your life, as we will see later.
Very soon. Yeah, because especially it's like, oh, then that means he thinks he can just come in whenever. And that's sort of like, we want to have that boundary with the person that we're working with, allegedly. Yaz asks us, did you know he was in here? Of course I didn't. And Yaz, like, she gets to it. She's like, you know what? We're not mincing words. You called me a cunt in front of him. Do you enjoy the fact he wants to fuck you? I was like, okay, Virginia Woolf. Where's Honey? In the other room?
Yeah, I know. I mean, the thing is, she was right on the money. Like, Henry and Whitney's gaze lingers in that moment before Henry's like, oh, just a sec, old sport. And, like, he has this very sort of satisfied smile on his face. So, like, they're intimate. They're intimate. The homoeroticism is very hot. It's
going hot. And as we lead into, which makes Yaz get across, she's like, you told me that you sucked that guy's dick at Winchester, which is the boarding school we assume he was at. And he's like, darling, those school kids, basically prison, which I would like to flag this line as potential foreshadowing. I told Andy, someone flagged this on Reddit, that they looked at casting in episode 8. There was a mention of some kind of, like, officer that is, like, a prison officer in the UK. So
yeah, someone might be going to jail by the end of the season.
Yeah. Which would make sense with where things are headed. And then Henry says this horrifying line, everyone gets a pass for that, you can be a homo at school.
So this has come up, like, homosexuality at boarding school has come up 2 other times that I could pinpoint. Once with Moritz when they were visiting Austria, and he said some, like, weird shit about that. And then Kwabena in the previous episode mentions that, like, one of the, like, ways that, like, British colonialism seeped into Africa was through buggery, aka, like, homosexuality at boarding school. So, like, we're playing a lot with this idea of, like, power and homosexuality and how it's sort of viewed by these, like, seemingly fully heterosexual men as, like, weak or emasculating.
What I have found very clever about industry, and also this makes me think of Love Actually as well, because of the way that they find a way to, like, sort of portray U.S. politics without, like, outrightly, like, expressing it. You can see from the tie already and the tan and the hair, this is a Trump
representative.
And we sort of see that, like, Jennifer Bevan is trying to play nice with Trump. Or the Trump replacement. And they're like, you know, as long as the deal is good for all parties. And this guy does his Trump impersonation. He's misunderstood by people in Europe. It's funny, they call him the president, and I wonder if that was, like, their way of, like, just kind of getting around all of it. But we all know we're smart enough. They really, like, did their big one with this, like, really getting across, like, what people think outside of the U.S., like, what they view our country and, like, our decision making, and rightly so. They try to bring it back around by saying, like, we're so grateful for you sitting with us and using Tinder as a test case while we continue to thrash out a trade deal. And it just makes me think of how, like, all the corporations that were at Trump's inauguration, like Amazon and Bill Gates, they have no morals and they don't care about us.
One of the most disappointing things about being an adult, especially in America and other capitalist countries, is finding out that, like, the government and businesses are basically the same thing, and so your rights are being changed or taken away for profit.
For something that, like, episode 1 of this season, it seemed like such a small meat and potatoes operation, and now it's suddenly with, like, the decisions between Whitney and Henry and Yaz, and Ferdinand, they're now, like, a global operation. It's just, like, crazy. So we go to Henry's office again. We're shooting from outside from the glass. Yaz smelt booze on Henry's breath. We find out he's repaired his relationship with alcohol, which is, as we know, not good. We're going down a slippery path very quickly with this. And we find out he had a glass of champagne after Web Horizon and his big speech that everyone loved. And yeah, she's starting to sort of suss out the stuff with Whitney and was like, maybe I should listen to Harper and like actually dig into this a little bit.
Despite Yaz not wanting Harper to be right, I think Yaz knows Harper is right because she knows, as Eric said, Harper is a bone-deep moneymaker, and Yaz knows exactly how relentless Harper is at getting what she wants, and she knows that Harper would not be pursuing this as rabidly as she is if it wasn't true. So she knows in her heart of hearts.
And we see this start to happen more as the scene goes on, and she's like, well, Henry, you, like, can't have alcohol. And he says, like, I think you want me out of control. I was like, Jesus Christ, these two people.
I wrote in my notes, who knew crushing heroin on the harpsichord was the good old days? Like, who knew that was going to be the best their marriage got?
And Yaz brings up Harper, and then she talked with her, and he's like, don't let that bitch into our building again. And this is where Yaz starts to dig in a little bit deeper. Do you think we've been too kind to Whitney? And it's interesting because it's like, it's the way the dialogue is written. It's like Henry's not listening to Yaz, even asking the question, because he's just now still focused on Harper and like how the system's set up for her to profit off of them. Do you want to undermine my success again? Just when I'm healing. And it's like, healing is my guy. You're drinking alcohol again.
Buddy, I don't know that even a full calendar year has passed since you were like breathing in carbon monoxide in the garage, seeing ghosts.
Has even a season passed? Have the leaves fallen? And then he says the most devastating, like, I don't know the right way to love you. Whoo, baby, if your husband is saying this, get out of Dodge. Call up Wanda and Marianne. Goodbye, Earl.
It's so crazy because, like, this man would be nowhere without Yaz. She pulled him out of, like, the depths of despair and, like, basically propped him up, like, Weekend at Bernie's him into a CEO position. And for him to be talking this way to her, especially as the viewer knowing that he's absolutely wrong and is, like, going down the tubes with everybody else, it's so gross. It's
why, like, here's what I'll say. Why a lot of women, I will say, don't want to have kids because we're out here raising men on the streets.
Like, I know.
We don't have the energy. There are unbaked, full-grown men out here that we still have to, like, put back in the oven and, like, let them cook for another calendar year and set it back out.
We gotta keep checking on them. We gotta put on our oven mitts and gingerly take them out of the oven, put them back in. They're not done yet.
We gotta let it rise a little bit. It never ends. Yeah. So we are now at dinner with Henry, Whitney, and Jacob Oleander, who is their auditor. And Jacob is, like, saying to them, like, I need more hands at the pump when it comes to preparing and filing Tender's audit. And Henry's, like, of course, so naive and is, like, believes everything Whitney tells me. He's like, we're over-compliant by IFRS standards, which I will tell you very quickly. This means it's International Financial Reporting Standards, and they're dictated by the International Accounting Standards Board and are followed in many countries outside the U.S. But, of course, Whitney's like, I don't want what I don't know. I want you, Jacob. I have, like... plied you, I have, given you wine, like, etc. Like, this, you are my man for me. Then Jacob is like, well, maybe, I've seen the argument that we have recognized our audit frameworks as equivalent. We can maybe go that way. We'll push for that. And he gets him this, like, crazy bottle of wine that I couldn't get the name of, that Jacob's like, oh, I wanted a bottle of this for my 40th, but the price was impossible to justify. Henry then starts to, like, he's like, maybe I should suss this out a little bit. Whitney's like, why are you asking questions? You're my pretty face.
Shut up.
All I want is your beautiful soul, Jesse McCartney.
Shut up.
And he says, like, issues exist, but the financials seem mostly okay. And Whitney's like, oh, well, let me give you some wine so we can stop talking about finances. Nobody needs you having to parse out our convoluted balance sheet. Hand on his, like, lots of hands on hands.
One of Whitney's main tools in his toolbox is to take advantage of seemingly heterosexual men's latent homosexuality.
Yep. Henry's like, okay, I think maybe there's something more here, and maybe I should have been listening to my wife. As always, listen to women.
He's like that meme, the woman with all the math equations.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that Yaz has planted the seed, has poisoned his brain a little bit, he's watching Whitney do what Whitney has done to him. He's getting him expensive wine, he's touching his hand, he's building him up and being like, we don't need any other auditors. You're the best. You're the sexiest auditor. Why would I need a less sexy auditor? And Henry is a very interesting character because you want to think he's dumb, but he's not dumb. He's just clueless sometimes.
And easily manipulated.
He's basically saying, like, the reason I didn't give you, like, a glowing audit immediately, the things I want to look at are probably just, like, you know, all of your different payment processors report things differently. It's probably just, like, nothing. It's nothing, he says. It's like, it's nothing underhand. It's just, you know... Some of the books are a little messy. It's not a big deal.
And then we get this like techno sort of sound going on, and we cut to Henry is sweaty. We're getting the Whitney voiceover. We don't really know where we're at quite yet. And he's doing the Dear Henry, you have to be the person who makes the other person feel safe, and the full expression of who they really are. And Henry looks like that meme of Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story when she's dancing in the acting class.
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, releasing his inner inhibition, like, the rest is still unwritten. But then we see the boys are dancing, and there's, like, this line about give me release. Not kissing, but, like, getting there.
It's rather intimate.
It's rather intimate. It makes you think of, like, the back room in Dirty Dancing. When they, like, she's, like, they're all sweaty on top of each other. And this twink is making eye contact with Henry, and I was like, oh no, this is not going to end well. And then Whitney gets ahead of him and leads him to a corner, and we see that we can imply this is a gay club. We're not seeing any women here. Heaven holds a sense of wonder is the line of music underneath this, as he is led to a glory hole.
I have never seen a glory hole in person, but I've also never seen it depicted on screen, and the duct tape really... This just ruined my day.
I was just thinking about figure skating 3 hours ago, and now I'm, like, having to think about the ins and outs of a glory hole, and I'm, like, very upset about this. And then he sticks his dick... I mean, heaven holds a sense of wonder.
I literally was sitting there on my couch going, don't put your penis in that. Don't do it.
I know. I was like, are we going to do it, like, can you put a hand sanitizer on a penis?
Well, the other thing, too, is, like, Henry also talked about, like, previously, like, sharing needles. Like, this man is trying to get an STI. He's, like, trying.
Or worse. And Whitney grabs his hair from behind. Whitney has to be involved in this. And whispers in his ear, everybody wants you. And then we finally get the credits. Crazy. We're like a third of the episode in before we got the title card.
I know. They really use the title card as, like, almost as a joke.
Yeah.
This is what the episode is really about. It's about glory holes. I had a thought here because, like, they have what Whitney's saying to him in the same, like, font that they used when Tony Day was, like, speaking another language.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird. I mean, partially it's probably because he's whispering, but I feel like Whitney's done this before. Maybe he did this with the auditor. Maybe he's done this before with other Tony Day. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like as I said, he like plays into like latent homosexuality, and he uses the glory hole like as hypnosis.
Yeah.
Like basically telling Henry like everything's fine, you're amazing. It's like it's crazy. It's like you're like check into the spa and you're like I'll do the sound bath and the glory hole.
They're not in a right sound state of mind. Like you can't do that.
Like who knows how many men he has done this with, or even women. Like he just. He knows how to get people to be their most vulnerable and then influence them.
Yeah, he doesn't know gender, he knows access. So now these boys, I think they're like at the 10. After a night of staying up all night, you say just the darkest truths about yourself because you're vulnerable, you've been up all night.
Yup.
And he's like, I'm pretty sure my wife doesn't love me. And Whitney, not an ounce of being genuine in this for Mark at all. I feel bad for allowing you to get fucked up on my watch. No, that was purposeful. Of course, Henry's now like trying to think he's like having these like revelations after having his dick sucked and like drugged out of his mind. Maybe this is all there is. Euphoria. Advertisement for the show coming back on April 12th.
Watch it on HBO.
And then Whitney... Again, this is really playing into the talented Mr. Ripley angle this episode that we really don't know if there's anything we can believe coming out of his mouth. He's like, I never believed in suicide. My mother attempted it, and my father wailed on her relentlessly. And Henry calls him out. He's like, I'm not sure I believe that.
I was really surprised that Henry called him out and was like, why does everything in your life sound like a bad novel? I was like, again, Henry is smarter than we give him credit for.
He's astute. And it's like, and also, and I think as he's about to say, like, he's now realizing he has power over Whitney because he has a thing that Whitney doesn't want, which is like, he was born into money. He will never be viewed as fraudulent. Like, he never has to prove himself in the way that Whitney feels that he does. And Henry says, I've got plenty of middle-class friends. Oh, that is horrible.
Sniffed him out.
Whitney is, like, not expecting Henry to, like, get him like this. I was like, get him, Henry. As long as your heart is pure. And then, hands touching hands. When we see that Whitney's in focus here, and he's got to go back to Accra, because he's always in Ghana. I got a flight to catch, and Henry's left just, like, basking in the sunrise, like, you know, as the realizations you have after a night out, thinking that you've, like, discovered the secrets of the universe.
Yeah, and I love how Henry says here, I think I'll crack on. And I was like, does he mean, like, keep partying? And he does.
We are now at the Alpha Conference, and this is the funniest, like, slide that they could have put for Harper, because she was on what planet was she ever giving a keynote about the practical toolkit for your first decade in finance? Like, what practical toolkit has Harper ever done anything in finance?
No, she has done everything the most convoluted and difficult way that you possibly could.
But Pierre is in attendance because it's his conference. And Eric and Harper are talking in the back. She's like, when I start talking, just stand by the door, let people with journalist accreditations come in, because she's wanting to, like, make an impact. And then we hear from the stage, Harper Stern towel needs no introduction. And I was like, oh my God, what a horrible introduction.
I loved this because she was like, I could do this presentation, or I could show you a woman doing her job to the best of her abilities, which I was like, hell yeah.
I know. And that's how we know Harper's about to, like, fuck shit up here. And we get this amazing Tinder too good to be true, very nondescript slide. Eric's, like, watching, like, a dad in the stands at the Olympics. Like, he's got the, like, doing the stance like this, like the dad, like, I can't do anything, just come on, get the speech, do it right. She's, like, rephrasing that, like, we think it's been overevaluated. It's like a zero value situation. And Pierre's like, interesting, like, what's going on here? That they're going, and she talks about we went straight to the source, and Yaz comes in, and Eric and Yaz make eye contact, and it's, like, not going to go well for our girl. We see a familiar face in the crowd. He's back, and he makes a nice, like, eye contact with Eric. So it's like, people are quickly, the word is getting out about Harper's speech. So
I know. And I love just this little satisfied nod between these two guys of, like, look at our girl go.
She's doing great. Lays the hammer down. We're assigning a price target of £0 to Tinder, and Yaz is like, fuck. And Eric, like, almost has a tear in his eye as Harper is speaking here. It's so, like,
proud.
It's very sweet. The short base is primed for explosion here.
I love the shots, the close-up shots of her face.
Yes.
In this. The music underscoring, too. Like, everything is just, like, highlighting that, like, she is crushing it. And, like, this is the inflection point moment.
And we get the now perfect analogy. The Emperor's clothes were shed some time ago. He's naked. He's afraid, as well he should be. And we get the back shot of Whitney on the plane. And she's like, the fall will be swift. It's never if but when. And Yaz is like, oh, no. I've really gotten in deep where I shouldn't be. TikTok. And we cut to Whitney has landed in Africa. He has no idea that this speech has happened at this point. Thinking he's just going to have a normal conversation with Tony after the Stern Towel conversation. He is in London. Why the fuck is he in London? And then we cut to Henry.
Oh my God.
So while his wife is handling his company falling apart, and Yaz calls him, and she's rightfully so, where the fuck are you? Your company's falling apart. Have you seen what Harper's done? There's two women, not one, but two. She's like, I'm just imagining the worst again. Because, of course, like, her anxiety's at 3,000 from the speech, knowing everything's about to crash and burn Tinder. Henry's gone off the deep end. This is what he's been cracking on with. And then we get the voiceover again from Whitney to he who has everything, more will be given. But whoever does not have, even what they do have, will be taken away. And we see the price is crashing on his phone as he's in the air. And he finally picks up the phone. Because for a minute, I was like, I wasn't sure if he was going to pick up. I was like, is he just going to let them go on red.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm on airplane mode. I can't pick up. And Ferdinand tells him what we know. There's been a massive spike in volume. A large institutional short is being built. About $1 billion has been wiped off of Tinder, which is crazy. Again, it's what we say. Money is fake. Money is nothing. Like, if we can lose $1 billion like that, like, what is money? And Whitney asks, is Yaz on the call? And Ferdinand tells him she and her husband are MIA. He's like, so our heads of communication bailed on us. And then Ferdinand tells him what he already knew. She was over-promoted. Point taken. Ferdinand's like, never respected her. And Whitney's like, this isn't a call about our cash situation. Like, it's not that bad. And Ferdinand's like, it's that bad. And Whitney, Delulu King, is like, why are we talking about this like it's real? Let's like deal with the government. We're going to play for time. This will correct with the right media appearance.
I thought it was interesting that Whitney asked where Yaz was, because I feel like he must have known, because he set Henry off on this bender, I think, on purpose.
Correct.
Because he knew shit was about to go down and he just wanted Henry distracted and therefore wanted Yaz distracted too. So, like, he set that trap on purpose. He knew that they weren't going to be around.
We are back at Sterntal Hotel Room headquarters, and they are giddy after the speech. Tony Day's going to play ball, and she's like, I'm going, and Quabana's like, you want more backup? And they have a look because of the information that they know, but Quabana doesn't know that Harper knows. So it's like this whole thing of like, do you want him to come with me? And Harper's like, yeah, sounds good. All yours, babe.
I realize this is difficult for Harper, and you can tell that it's difficult for her, but I appreciate that she's doing her best to treat Sweet Pea with respect, because she deserves it.
Because, sort of like what I've also been reading, like, because Sweet Pea is like Harper 2.0, kind of like how Haley is Yaz 2.0. So they now have authority over these people. So she's trying to like be better to her in some ways.
Yeah, because they learn from both their mistakes and also other people's mistakes. The mistakes that Harper's making, the mistakes that Yaz are making. They're observing this and they're getting more powerful.
Eric tells her Halverson's going to speak on CNN. And he mentions, I saw Preston Carnahan at your presentation. I was like, why is that name familiar? Crotona Park. That's Jesse Bloom's new CIO, my boy.
Yep.
Okay.
J. Duplass.
But I think he's going to be the, like, white knight coming in the final throws to get Tinder down. But obviously Harper's going to have to, like, give up something for it. He'll be back. He's on the call sheet. And Quabana's at Burned Retina headquarters, tracking everything happening. Spirits are high at Sterntal headquarters. Eric is like, can you update the P&L? It's like, this is not a day in finance you have every day. Like, this is like a rare, like a day where they're like crashing out Tinder is so few and far between. And he calls her Harpoon, which I was like, has he called her that before? Or has it been a while?
I don't know if he has. I really don't know. It felt like a moment of like advancing past harpsichord.
Yeah.
You know, a harpsichord is something that can be played. A harpoon is a weapon to kill something.
And he says like the biggest words of affirmation he's ever said in his life. You've gave me my favorite ever day in finance. And I was like, this is just like, and Sweet Pea's like, what am I watching here? She's like, why are we here? Like, this is like an intimate moment between them. But
she's like, why doesn't this man have more healthy distance from his job?
Exactly. Like, work-life balance, look it up.
Anybody?
Yeah. And then Harper's like, yeah, I guess. And they cheers. Everyone's happy for now. And then Haley, Whitney's like, I need you to write a firm-wide memorandum about today's sell-off. You know, real work is a foreign concept to Yaz. She's MIA. And Haley's like, well, she's been sniffing around. And is like, I think she may go to the press. Whitney's like, does she know what you do for me? No, I neglected to tell her the difficult positions that you put myself in explicitly for you. It's like, okay, so now we're starting to really find out what fucked up shit is actually happening here. Starts talking about his previous assistant. She was apparently one of ours, which we don't know what that means yet. And then she talks about like the position you put my cousin Dolly in. And she's like, she's a fucking girl no matter what. And he's like, what about your previous assistant? Did you hush her up and pay her off? Or worse, where is she?
And like, this is the kind of stuff that when the season started, I thought this was the nefarious stuff that was going on with Tinder.
Right.
I thought it was some sort of like sexual assault at work. Also, the fact that she says little cousin Dolly and you're like, oh my God, that's Dolly Hotel Girl.
Foreshadowing some fucked up shit we're about to see soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Haley leaves, and Harper gets a phone call. The gun show is out. I was like, her gun arms look amazing. And Whitney calls Harper and says, do you have a favorite piece of classical music? And again, it's the view from, like, outside of the office, and, like, Harper's like, this just must be exhausting, knowing, like, you could be completely undone by one single question. God, this shot was, like, so incredible and so cinematic. I love this. Like, again, framing from behind. He's like, I shouldn't have brought my business to a history project of a fucking island, referring to the UK. And then Harper's like, you could have stayed where they didn't care where your money came from. Where there are, like, millions of people like you.
Yeah, come to America. We don't care if you do bad things here. We're fine with it. We love it.
Whitney's like, people's will to be deceived is practically in their DNA. And he's like, who doesn't exploit it? That's business, babe. And he was, like, trying to, like, say to Harper, like, it's a legitimate enterprise. If you say it loud enough, that doesn't make it true. And we start to see him get his hands on a passport. And he says, we're quickly becoming the most popular bank for Gen Z, which is very funny because, again, they're 4 steps ahead. Mr. Beast just acquired Step this week, a banking app aimed at Gen Z, and it allows users under 18 to open bank accounts and credit cards.
Someone needs to stop Mr. Beast.
And then she is like, well, okay, I'm calling you on your bluff. Well, they'll find nothing but a fucking Frankenstein balance sheet of tricks and concealments. And he says, life's an act of becoming, not being, Harper, which is, like, very telling for what we're about to see. And she, like, calls him on it, you're a con man. And then she says, you called me, Whitney, like, reminding him, like, I'm not the, like, I'm
not the one who reached out to talk.
The dildo was a one-time strap-on moment. And she was like, the way that you talked about funerals so practically, like, alerted me to, like, why you're so weird. And she's like, funerals have a function. It's for ritualistic grieving. It's a human need to deal with this shit. And he starts singing, I Want to Dance with Somebody, which, leaning back, Whitney Houston. Whitney.
Yeah, so I have a theory about this. He says to Harper a couple lines ago, being alive is an act of becoming.
Yeah.
And we talked about this previously. Halberstram is the last name of a character in American Psycho, Marcus Halberstram. And Marcus Halberstram and Patrick Bateman, the main character, often get mistaken for each other because they have the same job and the same barber. And that movie is a lot about, like, what's real and what's not, and the lines are always blurred. And so there's some theories that Patrick Bateman and Marcus Halberstram are the same person.
Yeah.
So I think what's going on here, because the singing of I Want to Dance with Somebody seems like it comes out of nowhere, I think this is Whitney in a very creepy serial killer way telling Harper, Whitney Halberstram is not my real name.
Yeah.
I think he took Halberstram from American Psycho, and he took Whitney from Whitney Houston, and he smushed them together because we're about to see he's got a passport for some guy in Lithuania. So I think this is his way of, like, in a sneaky way, being like, I am not real. I have become Whitney Halberstram because life is an act of becoming somebody. So I don't think this is this man's real name.
No, for sure not. And it's also, it's very Don Draper. It's, like, also Don Draper.
Dick Whitman.
So it's, like, I think the casting of the fact that his dad wrote Talented Mr. Ripley and him being, it's just, like, it's so interesting to me how that is, like, sort of, like, been woven into this character. And I think also Anthony had in his first post as Whitney, he was like, he's a real American Psycho on Instagram. That was the last line on the caption. So it's all connected. Here is the aforementioned passport. Is it him? Is this his real identity? We don't know. Like, this could be just, like, another fake
this
identity.
could be who he actually is and not, like, a fake identity for, like, we have no idea.
We have no idea. And Harper's obviously left, like, okay, this is uneasy. Like, what is happening on this phone call? And Whitney's like, how are we supposed to remain virtuous? And we see with his voiceover again, he calls Jonah and he says hello. And I guess this is how he answers all of his phone calls. Jonah, it's me. Like, because he did that also with Tony. I was like, okay, you have to announce yourself. Jonah says the craziest line, get a lawyer or kill yourself.
I know.
It's cheaper. I was like, and hangs up. I was like, go off. And we get this, like, sinister shot of Ferdinand and Whitney meeting in the dark because these two are working in the dark. And we need proper eyes on Tony Day. It's the first time Whitney seems at unease. Because he's like, we can handle this without violence. We don't need to kill anyone. And Ferdinand says, good to know you're a man with some red lines. And Whitney starts to dig into, because we don't really know anything about Ferdinand. Other than he's the mouthpiece.
Yes, and also, like, Tony Day, when Sweet Pea and Kwabena were questioning, like, who do you think is watching you, we thought it was Whitney, but this conversation between Ferdinand and Whitney is revealing that there are other parties involved who are above these men, who are controlling the situation.
Just more and more global. Like, it's like I've said, this show's kind of like The Wire in that sense of like, we thought it was Pierpoint, and like actually it's how the whole system is corrupt is like what we're getting more and more towards. Whitney's like, how did you get involved with these guys? And he says razoblackany, which is razoblackany is a Russian word.
Yeah, it's a Russian word that means exposure, but like specifically exposure of like a malicious hidden identity. We're about to see this, using something bad that somebody has done in secret as a way to blackmail them. Like the threat of being exposed.
Yeah. Credential theft. They wanted a picture, and we find out like sort of like how he was involved with IBN, that they wanted a picture of the IBN client base. So they cleared a path for him to be CFO. So these people were how he became CFO, like not like on his own merit, you know, working his way up. And then he was found by Cozy Bear, which Cozy Bear is a Russian advanced persistent threat hacker group believed to be associated with the Russian foreign intelligence by U.S. intelligence agencies and those allied countries. They've been monitored since 2014. They're able to link the hacker group to the Russian foreign intelligence agency after compromising security cameras in their office.
Somebody commented on one of our recaps and said they were like, they think that maybe this could be like attached to some sort of like Russian secret intelligence, and it seems like they were right.
And Ferdinand's like, well, you know, it's like not really our concern. Narrative is all that matters now. Nobody can be off story.
And what's interesting is there seems to be that like they think they just have to get through this next hurdle and then something huge is going to happen. And it's like unclear what it is. Like, what is this big thing that they've been building up to? Because it doesn't seem like they're just trying to keep Tender afloat.
Exactly.
It seems like there is, like, some specific event that they need to get to, which I don't know what that is.
And it's like, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And I don't know. I was like, are we going to meet some, like, Russian characters by the finale? Like, are we going to meet the face of this, like, at all? I'm curious to see, like, where this is leading. And we are back at Sterntow. I know. And Eric is there, like, seemingly having, like, a great moment with his daughter. He was like, Mom was surprised you wanted to leave with me. And she's like, I'll stay. And he's like, you know, you're going to kill your old man. You know, he gets, like, a text in the middle of this. And she's like, well, I love him too much. And he's like, yeah, I love you too. And we don't know what's on the phone quite yet. And she's like, Dad, all good. And something horrifying is on his phone. And it's the video footage of last week. And we can assume it's the dolly, now that we were referencing earlier in the episode, which someone on Reddit said, I meant to go back and get a screenshot of it. You can see Haley partying with her in the club in the beginning of episode 1 of this season.
That's wild. That's really wild.
Yeah, the breadcrumbs have been there from the beginning. And there's a second thing in this text, and it's her passport. And she was born in 2011. She's not 18.
Mm-mm.
Eric rightfully has this reaction, and we have to assume Whitney was probably involved in planting her there and, like, knew what Eric's, like, shortcomings were, and he would fall for it.
Yep. Yeah, it's
bad.
It's really upsetting, and the way they set this scene up, like,
yeah.
Eric finally has an opportunity to connect with his daughter. This was so fucked up and, like, so hard to take. Like, it was, this was really, really devastating.
I also read about, like, people bringing up the story about her catfishing and then getting that girl to look like, to attract the older men, and it's like, how these are intertwined. Yeah.
It's all linked together.
So he's running off, and we get another voiceover. Wealth is the greatest disguise. Tony is at breakfast. I don't know if I got a shot of the guy that was looking at him, that we don't really know if we've seen him before, but maybe. But Burgess is rushing. Whitney, they're rushing to see who's going to get there first. And Sweet Pea's in the cab. Here's what I'll say to Sweet Pea. If you're on time, you're late. You got to be early.
Yeah,
This is a big deal breakfast. You should be sitting at the table before Tony Day. Tony is, like, nervous, clearly, about this entire interaction that's about to happen. Whitney gets there first. And Whitney's already, like, playing the cards to manipulate him, saying, like, they're not invested in what happens to you from here. They're going to use you to burnish their finances and status their spheres. He's like, I saw actual value in you. I see who the Tony Day is and what your potential is.
Whitney's sitting there being like, I wonder if Claridge's has a glory hole in the bathroom. I'm sorry.
God. I really thought we were done with the glory hole.
I'm sorry.
And Sweet Pea comes in at the time, and she is, like, checking in, and he says, I'm scared, and we find out, they've just gotten there after Whitney has gotten his claws into them. And Whitney's like, don't look at them. You're going to impoverish yourself, and you'll realize how far you've fallen from grace. This horrible interaction where Whitney tries to act like very pleasant, like whatever, pleasure. And Sweet Pea's like, come on, you're making the right decision. He's like, I hope so. So we think we've left the breakfast that they've got Tony Day on their side. Which I was like, guys, if you saw Whitney there, no, why would you think that? Why on earth? We're at CNN, and they're like, looks like it's just you in studio. Whitney thinks he's all good, but then he sees Eric getting mic'd up. And I was like, I'm so excited. What's about to happen? And then Eric starts saying these lines that sound like what a dad would say to you that he saw in like a Winston Churchill documentary or like a World War II. He's like,
well, you're not far off. They're from Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure that Eric has a pocket copy that he keeps on his person at all times.
Of course.
So Eric is basically trying to like psych Whitney out before this and is saying like, you're going to be my outlet. I'm going to go through you. Yeah. I'm taking you down with me. I'm a man with nothing left to lose because you've put me in this position, so you're going down with me too.
And it's just like, that is a scary place to be.
Whitney really underestimated Eric Tao. Like, Eric Tao with nothing to lose is dangerous.
He got a man who had a hidden brain tumor let go from his job and use that information against him. Like, this man has no morals. We're back at Stern-Tao headquarters. We're like, why did Eric go, not you? He insisted. So we don't know what's really going on yet. And Whitney's like trying to be the charming guy in this like back and forth on camera. Like, you got to keep an eye on this guy. And we find Tony Day comes out. Eric is like, fuck. Okay, this is happening. Whitney's like, I got one on ya. This is when Sweet Pea tells Harper that Whitney was at the breakfast and not a moment before, which was bad timing all around.
Yep.
Information we should have known sooner. And Tony tries to paint this picture that, like, Stern-Tao is like all these other businesses, that they're like very prejudiced.
He's basically just chalking it all up to racism. You guys think that these companies in Africa aren't real because you're racist, not because they're actually fake.
Yeah, and this is when Eric just like, everything is gone. This is his great last speech that he is about to have. He's got nothing, especially after what has happened in the previous scene that we've seen. He's like, I made no claims to the effect. I'm a money manager. My only operating software is a profit motive. That and my id, and they're indivisible. However bad you want the audience to tell him I am, I'm worse. And he takes that to camera. And it's like, this guy is like doubling down on everything. And Harper's smart. Now it's the flip side. Harper had her speech earlier. Eric's getting his now. Harper's looking on with glee at Papa. And Henry's watching from his monitor. And he looks concerned. And then he says the words to like land on everyone, new audit. Would Tinder submit to a new audit? And then Henry freaks out. We got to call Jacob. And this poor assistant is like, what?
I just know. Was like, she just got here.
Yeah.
She was sent over from the temp agency and she doesn't know how bad her life is about to get.
She just got her flat white at Pret. Like, let her be. Like, she's just trying to live. Then now we are taken to Haley from the back, and Haley and Yaz are now having their one-on-one. And this is mirroring the blocking from Harper and Yasmin earlier.
Yeah.
It was like, only can imagine how you're feeling. And Yaz is like, I don't think you can, actually. There's like nothing. She's like, you know the way he operates. And we find out the real information. He hired her from an escort agency. They all came from the same agency. He put us in front of guys we want to get close to. We were all similar. That we would be on camera sometimes as well. And there's a guy on the board of some bank, Al-Mirage, who bought Pierpoint. It all goes back. It's all related. We thought we'd forgotten about Al-Mirage, but they're coming back. And I needed to get him into it in order for it to happen. And Yaz is realizing 2 and 2 about their little one-on-one session that they had. What does he do with the videos? He's extorting people. Was that on camera? Haley says nothing.
Nothing means yes. Remember when I said, what if Whitney is looking through the Hitler painting? Yeah. He basically was. And also, when Eric was like, do you always have a room at this hotel? And Dolly was like, yes. Had to get a man into a specific room. Like, it was very clearly Whitney who set Eric up.
So orchestrated. And we find out that he told Haley to just be in their lives. And that he exploits fragile people. She's like, I've used every inch of my body. I'm done clawing. And she's like, I don't even want money. I want access. Access is what makes you rich. And Yaz, rightly so, says, I don't trust you. And but she's like, but I think you understand me. And she's like, do you understand me in any way you ask? And we're left, again, hands holding hands. These two holding hands.
These two should not trust each other at all.
No!
However, I am very excited about these two. I think these two actresses are incredible together. The stakes of this are so freaking high. Yaz should take this opportunity because Haley has a lot of information that Yaz can use to maybe save herself in this situation.
Different information that just, like, paints a bigger picture of all the fucked up shit going on. This scene, again, this is where he gets his Emmy. Harper's like, you really pinned that motherfucker today. And she's like, I didn't think you had that dog in you. And everyone's gone. And there's a man, and they go into this other room. He tells them to go to this other room. There's a man sitting at the table. And I was like, what's going on here? And Eric's like, you might be standing on the verge of something great. This is yours. But he's like, I can't really continue from here. Marvin represents me. Call me a coward. I can't do it. And so Marvin takes over. And he says he's instructed me to drop a deed of assignment of his partnership interest is turned to you. She's like, you're dissolving our partnership. What are you doing? This devastating line. I was incapable of feeling pride for anyone but myself, but I'm really glad you proved me wrong. Can't say that to his own daughters, but he says it to Harper, his, like, spiritual daughter, that, like...
I know. This really broke my heart. Like, this man did something so despicable, and yet my heart really aches for these two because they had finally figured out...
I know. They're dynamic.
They'd finally figured it out, and they were winning. They were going to make it happen. Yeah. Like, also, I find it interesting that Whitney chose to take down Eric, but not Harper. I think he almost enjoys the fact that, like, Harper is getting one over him.
I think because he knows that's taking Harper out at the knees also. That's her closest confidant, and so now it's like Harper's alone. So it's like, what does Harper do without Eric? Harper signs the papers begrudgingly. I'll always remember you like this. And it's just, we're left with a shot of Harper crying, Eric is crying, and we get this, like, close-up. And it's just, like, impeccably, like, written, acted, directed across the board. And we are back at Tinder. Henry is back to them. That was a worthwhile appearance. Whitney thinks he's, like, all good here. Henry's now got the power. He's like, I relieved Jacob of his position. We no longer require his services. And Whitney's like, you need board approval for it, my guy. And he's like, but I don't. I'm CEO. Remember that? And he's like, I informed company's house. And Whitney tells him, he's like, that's a grave mistake. And he's like, you got to tell me why. It's going to be best said like this. Gives him an envelope, says Henry. He's like, okay, what is this? Is this a love letter about you wanting to go back to the glory hole? We're coming full circle on the Dear Henry. It's important you understand everything, making our lives harder, closing on our goal. He's calling someone, giving a password with no idea to who he's calling. And it was like, it said something in Japanese, I think was what I saw in the captions. So now Asia's involved. Everybody is like, who are the penguins in Antarctica involved? Like, literally every continent is in this operation.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But people are going to accuse us of criminality, the prison from earlier. But it won't stop people making the case against me and by that very definition against you. Henry realizes now he's in deep, deep, deep glory hole shit. And we get this shot of Eric walking off into the distance, which he said he had to film several times. And basically he told the creators this quote about Eric, that what he thinks, he who makes a beast of himself gets rid of the pain of being a man, which they agreed had encapsulated Eric. This was a Samuel Johnson quote, who failed in all aspects of his life that required humanity. So now Eric walks off into this path of his life, unknown of what's going to happen. We've lost an incredible character. I mean, like, Eric has really been, like, we've seen so many different facets of this man, and we started to see, like, this bit of humanity in him this season that we hadn't really seen before. Yeah, I really don't know where we're going in the next 2 episodes. We still have 2 left, so a lot can happen.
I assumed that Whitney was, like, going forward with his plan of, like, assuming his, like, Lithuanian identity. Like, when he switched his SIM card and, like, gave that password, I was like, oh, he's getting out of Dodge. But then in the preview for next week, he's still around. So I really have no idea what to expect. Like, this did feel like a finale episode, and yet we still have 2 left. This episode was an absolute masterpiece on, like, every level.
I'm sure there's a million things we've missed. Let us know in the comments, like, other little nuggets you may have noticed, like, other thoughts you had on the episode. But, like, really, tens across the board. We rarely get to watch incredible episodes of television on our podcast, and it was amazing to watch this. So we'll see you next week, you little Pierpoint freaks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.